Hi guys, this is Taylor and I'm here today with a very overdue book haul. I'm not even really sure how this happened. These books have just been here and I just failed to acknowledge them, which is uncharacteristic. I'm just gonna jump straight into it and very briefly show you the new releases that I have acquired that I've already read. And I've already talked about all of them in wrap-ups, so if you want to hear more about them, I will link all of those wrap-ups in the doobly-doo. In January, I acquired Brass by Jeanette Aliou, 5 stars, and Red Clocks by Lenny Zumas, 3 stars, and in February I acquired Eternal Life by Dara Horn, 4 stars, almost 5 stars, and The House of Impossible Beauties by Joseph Cassara, 4 stars. In March, I picked up The Parking Lot Attendant by Nafkateh Tamarat, 4 stars. Young China, How the Restless Generation Will Change Their Country and the World by Zach Diechtwald, 4 stars. And Stray City by Chelsea Johnson, 3 stars. And this past month in April, I acquired The Female Persuasion by Meg Wolitzer, 3 stars. And of course, Lawn Boy by Jonathan Evison, 2 stars. So to start in on the unread books that I have here to show you, I'm going to start with 4 books that I received for Christmas. Yeah, and what's even funnier is that I have planned this haul as a big catch-up haul for at least 3 months now. So this was overdue a couple months ago, but now it's just sad. Of those books that I received for Christmas, the first of which is Loner by Teddy Wayne. This is a campus novel about a freshman at Harvard who, being naturally mild-mannered and kind of forgettable, ends up compromising his moral standards in an effort to impress a girl, but in the end I think neither of them are really who you think they are. Next I have Her Body and Other Parties by Carmen Maria Machado. This was the book going around my corner of BookTube all last year. These are all short stories that have to do with the politics surrounding women's bodies, especially right now, but pretty much since forever. It says that these short stories combine psychological realism, science fiction, comedy and horror, fantasy and fabulism, and honestly this is way at the top of my list right now. I've waited too long to read this anyway. Then I have Universal Harvester by John Darnell. I have absolutely no idea how this is gonna look on camera. This is John Darnell's second novel, the first of which was Wolf in White Van, which I read and thought was perfectly fine, but this one has a much more interesting premise to me. This takes place in the 90s in the middle of nowhere in Iowa. Our main character works in a video rental store and is starting to receive complaints about returned videos coming back with some extra content on them, and it turns out that this content is vaguely disturbing home movies that have all been shot around the small town. This has a very Midwestern Gothic type of feel to me. And lastly, for the Christmas books, I have The Good People by Hannah Kent. This is the sophomore novel by the author of Burial Rites, BookTube's favorite book. This is the UK edition, and I have to put out a PSA real quick because I've seen this book in plenty of videos, but it just doesn't translate how exquisitely gorgeous this book is. I'm gonna put in some extra up-close shots because this book is so intricately and delicately detailed. The UK editions of her books are just so stunning. Other than that, I will admit to having a minimal knowledge of what this book is actually about, other than it takes place in 19th century Ireland and focuses on a family torn apart by a house fire, I think. And these next books don't have any particular theme or circumstances. This is just everything else that I have acquired between Christmas and now. I have Everything I Never Told You by Celeste Ng. I know, I haven't read this, I haven't even owned it before now. Celeste Ng is a breakout author and this is her debut novel. This is about family secrets, and I know most of you have probably read this, and I know I will be among you soon. I also have Swimming with Bridgeport Girls by Anthony Tambakis. I was drawn to this book because it takes place in Connecticut, where I live, and the last book that I read that took place in Connecticut was Brass by Jeanette Aliou, which has come to be one of my favorite books of all time. So, you know, it did okay. This is about a middle-aged guy who has just been fired His wife left him and he's addicted to gambling. He is unexpectedly paid inheritance from his long-lost father, and he starts to conceive of a plan to kind of get his life back together. And I think this is also supposed to be pretty funny, despite the synopsis. Next, I have a library discard that I was thrilled to see in the discard pile. It's an old copy of The Makioka Sisters by Junichiro Tanizaki. I recently picked up Some Prefer Nettles by Tanizaki, but this is the book that most people seem to read and enjoy the most by him. And the edition that I was previously looking at on Amazon was like $30, so I'll just take this free one. Thanks. I also picked up 2 more from the very short introduction series. I have Modern Art and Art History. I've talked about these quite a bit on this channel. These are very nice little primers on pretty much every subject that you can think of, even kind of abstract things like love or like very specific topics like plate tectonics. The Circle by Dave Eggers. This is a very popular book about a woman who takes a job at the world's most powerful tech company and begins to grow increasingly uncomfortable with what her job entails and what the company is doing in general. Now, everyone I know who has read this book has had issues with it and has said that it was kind of meh at best. However, there is something about the premise. I'm still just drawn to it. I am noticing though, now that I have this copy in my hands, this is a deceptively long book. Like, you look at this and you think it's maybe like 300 pages. It's 500 pages. The pages are like tracing paper thin. So I'm thinking audiobook on double speed. Definitely. Almost kind of in the same vein, I also have The Girls by Emma Cline. This is a very popular but very polarizing book about a girl in the 60s, a young teenager I think, who falls in with a very infamous cult. I know the sociology and psychology of being in a cult is a big draw to a lot of us, and I'm really no exception. And I've heard that this really explores that sense of obligation and fanaticism very well. But like I said, this book seems to really divide people, so I'm interested to see where I fall on that. I also have The Parable of the Sower by Octavia E. Butler. Octavia E. Butler is one of those authors whose existence I would not be aware of if it weren't for BookTube, even though she is a celebrated popular author. I've heard again and again that her books should be taught in schools because of their engaging nature in addition to their commentary. I've never encountered anyone who, upon beginning to read her books, did not become a little bit obsessed, so I'm ready. I've booked my ticket. This is my starting point. Next, I have The Alps, A Human History from Hannibal to Heidi and Beyond by Stephen O'Shea. You have probably noticed at this point, I have some very specific niche interests. The Alps are one of them for whatever reason. I did read a book called Killing Dragons that was about the Alps, but it was really more about the conquest of the Alps and like the mountaineering history. So this is about the human side, the social side, so I'm excited to get to this one. Then I have a very old but perfectly fine copy of Orlando by Virginia Woolf. At this point, the only other Woolf that I've read is Mrs. Dalloway, which again I thought was perfectly fine, but I am most interested in getting to this one next because I know that it plays with gender in some way. I don't know how, but Orlando. I also have NP by Banana Yoshimoto. Last year I read Kitchen, which I think is kind of her most popular novel, and it was like a 3-star to me. So this will be my next venture into her work and her writing style. From what I know, this is about a translator who, every time he takes up a task, his clients die, something to that extent. And a really interesting anecdote here is that I ordered a different edition. This one came in the mail. It's fine, but on the back it refers to Banana Yoshimoto using he pronouns, and I thought maybe Banana Yoshimoto is trans because I know that they have written trans characters in the past. So I did some research. I spent like a good half hour with my mom trying to figure this out. I couldn't find any information about that, but you know, I want to be as accurate as I can when I talk about this author, so if you know Banana Yoshimoto to be trans, then let me know. But otherwise, I think that that's just a very strange error. And finally, very, very exciting stuff for me, I did pick up the 2 biographies of my favorite figure skater user, Hanyu. These are 2 exquisitely beautiful books that have like beautiful full color photos. They're designed beautifully, and obviously they're in Japanese, so I can't read a word of Japanese, but the deal is that there were fan translations done of these 2 biographies, and what you have to do, because these books were initially written for charity to rebuild after the 2011 earthquake and tsunami, you take a picture of yourself with the book so that the fan translators know that you own it and that money went to charity, and then they will send you a PDF of the fan translation. So I did that, and I now own PDFs that I can read, so I'm highly excited to get to these. This one covers his life from about birth, I guess, to 2012, and this one from 2012 to 2016 when it was released. So that is everything that I have amassed from Christmas until now. Again, not really sure how this happened. Not sure if this is gonna happen again. Nonetheless, I'm glad that you're here. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you're having a great day, and I'll see you soon. Bye! People are not kidding in the slightest when they show bloopers of them trying to carry book stacks that have like 20-25 books in them. It's like death is imminent.